It is 100% inevitable that just when you think you finally recovered from the worst heartbreak in your life, just when that gaping wound in the center of your chest has finally healed, you'll be contacted by the very person who did all that damage in the first place. Am I right? Hi. I just want you to know that I'm back in Washington. My friends say they see you running in Rock Creek Park all the time. I hope your storytelling show last night went well. Listen, you may not be ready to see me, or maybe you don't ever want to see me again, but I was really hoping that maybe we could meet up sometime soon, because I really want to get my suitcase back. After 3 months of radio silence, was this email the best she could do? I mean, the only thing that was missing was a few LOLs and maybe a smiley face emoji. I mean, and I had so many questions, like, why were her friends spying on me during my afternoon runs? And how did she know about my storytelling appearance? But most of all, what I really wanted to know, did she really want that piece of shit suitcase back? I mean, ladies and gentlemen, I'm no expert on baggage, but that luggage had to be at least my age, and I'm old. I mean, she could do better with a cardboard box taped on top of a skateboard, or maybe a hefty bag. Ladies and gentlemen, what I'm trying to say here is, well, that roller bag of hers was an absolute piece of shit. And yet there I was 1 week and 3 very short emails later, carrying that roller bag through the streets of Washington, D.C., in the direction of the public park where we had agreed to meet up for this unfortunate handoff. And the closer I got, I began to wonder, what was I going to say to her? And more importantly, what was she going to say to me? Like all great storybook romances, ours started on Tinder. But truthfully, I was at the point in my online dating career where it had long since ceased being a part-time hobby and had become something of a full-time job. And if the first 1,000 dates had taught me anything, it was this: go out, have fun, but don't get your hopes up. When I arrived at the bar that night and saw her sitting there bathed in a white light that could have only emanated from heaven above, I felt the searing jolt of an electrical charge, as if I was struck by lightning right there on the spot. Wow, I said audibly as I approached her to introduce myself. Wow, she said audibly as she got up to give me a hug, knocking over her drink in the process. The attraction was mutual. The attraction was instantaneous. I had just polished off my first $15 cocktail when I said to her, gotta be honest with you, this place really isn't my scene. Oh, thank God, she replied. What do you say we catch a cab to the Raven in Mount Pleasant? I was sold. That first date lasted 15 hours. 1 week later, I was introduced as the boyfriend to all her friends at a Halloween party. A month later, we exchanged I love yous over a romantic dinner. And before we decorated the Christmas tree, she showed me her favorite wedding dress. Now, one does not reach my age, having never been married, without having a few commitment issues. And yet there I was, throwing all caution to the wind and falling madly in love. Early on in our relationship, she informed me that she had taken a short-term assignment in London. And since I, as a freelance consultant, could pretty much work from anywhere, was invited to join her. But there was only one small catch. I had a few prior commitments here in DC that would delay my arrival. We said our goodbyes, she departed for London, and we corresponded every day, ending each message with the same words: I love you, I miss you, and I can't wait to see you. And when the day finally arrived for me to depart for London, I packed that piece of shit suitcase that she had lent me a few weeks earlier, and I made my way to the airport. I sent her one final text as I was boarding the plane. Last chance to back out. Just get here, she replied. But when I arrived at Heathrow Airport 6 hours later, she was nowhere to be found. She arrived an hour late, she greeted me with a weak hug, and she barely said a word on the train back into London. But when we finally made it back to our flat and the door closed behind us, I knew there was nothing that a good old-fashioned love-making session wouldn't solve. And as I went in for a passionate kiss, she brushed me aside. Why don't you put your things away and take a nap in the bedroom, she said. I'm gonna finish watching House of Cards out here. As I lay on the most uncomfortable mattress ever created in this strange new apartment, in this strange new city, my heart went into immediate free fall, and my stomach tied into a giant knot. Kind of like how many of you've probably felt a week ago tonight. This was not the reunion I had anticipated. I just need to get used to being around you, she said. But she didn't. She didn't even try. And since she didn't offer any sort of explanation, I spent every waking hour, and there were plenty of those, trying to figure it all out. Did she meet someone else? Did she start taking drugs? Did she stop taking drugs? Does she have some strange form of amnesia? Am I trapped in a nightmare that I can't wake from? Has she been replaced by an alien robot? The less and less I slept, the crazier and crazier my theories got. And through it all, she said not a word. I lasted 3 weeks in London. I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat, and the one person I had crossed an ocean to be with was nowhere to be found. I just don't see this situation changing, was the best that she could offer. Heartbroken and at sanity's end, I made arrangements to come home months earlier than expected. We said our farewells on a crowded train platform in London. I will always love you, I said as tears streamed down my face. I've got to go, I'm late for a meeting, she said, as she backed away into a crowd and disappeared. I never felt so alone as I lugged that piece of shit suitcase on a crowded train bound for Heathrow. I landed at Dulles, I hailed a cab back to DC, and I carried that piece of shit suitcase up the 3 flights of stairs at my condo building. I unpacked, and then I put that suitcase away in the back of my closet and spent 3 months trying to forget everything that had happened. Time passed, pain lessened, and I started to feel like a human being. And that's when I heard from her. When I got to the park, she was already there. She greeted me with an exaggerated wave and a bony hug that I didn't reciprocate. I just stared into her eyes. I wanted her to say something, say anything. She just grabbed the handle of that suitcase and started backing away. I've got to go. I'm late for a meeting. My eyes followed her as she walked away, and I began to wonder, why wasn't I saying anything? Why wasn't I shouting at the top of my lungs? And then it hit me. I felt nothing. No electricity, no lightning bolts, nothing. She turned a corner with that suitcase dragging behind her, and she was gone. Took a deep breath, turned around, and I started the walk back to my apartment, a little lighter and a whole lot happier, having gotten rid of all that baggage that I had been lugging around. Thank you.